Hey, have you ever played Dungeons and Dragons? I try to play it a lot. I don't often succeed, but I give forward a great effort. One thing you probably know if you play Dungeons and Dragons is that it has a lot of magic in it and a lot of different spells you can cast. Some are good, some are bad, some are somewhere in between. But what spell is the greatest, you may ask? I don't fucking know. What do you think I am, some kind of nerd? But I can tell you which spell is my personal favorite, and it's one that I discovered like 3 days ago, and it's already my favorite. That's how much I like it. I've seen this spell be brought up before in a few different videos when I searched for it, but I don't think I've seen one that's specifically about this spell in general. There's probably one out there that I didn't see, but, since I can't find it, I say, might as well do it myself. So what is this spell that I'm talking about? Well, it's the 7th level illusion spell, Mirage Arcane. Such a cool name, Mirage Arcane. That just sounds magical when you say it, doesn't it? Now, this spell is 7th level, which a lot of people don't seem to get to my knowledge. A lot of campaigns don't really reach, past level 10. But I guess it depends on what kind of group you have. And if you do ever get access to 7th level spells and you can take Mirage Arcane, I highly recommend it. Although you might want to talk to your DM before you pull this out, because this spell is nutter butters to fuck insane. But enough teasing, what is this spell and what does it do? Once again, it's an illusion spell of 7th level. It has a casting time of 10 minutes, so you probably can't use it in combat. And it's only verbal and somatic components, so no materials required. And on top of all of this, it lasts for 10 days, which I think is about the average lifespan of a D&D wizard. As for the spell's description, it goes as follows. You make terrain in an area up to 1 mile square look, sound, smell, and even feel like some other sort of terrain. The terrain's general shape remains the same, however open fields or a road could be made to resemble a swamp, hill, crevice, or some other sort of difficult or impassable terrain. A pond could be made to seem like a grassy meadow, a precipice like a gentle slope, or a rock-strewn gully seem like a wide and smooth road. You can alter the appearance of structures or add them where none present. The spell doesn't disguise, conceal, or add creatures. The illusion includes audible, visual, tactile, and olfactory elements, so it can turn clear ground into difficult terrain, or vice versa, or otherwise impede movement through any area. Any piece of the illusory terrain, such as a rock or stick, that is removed from the spell's area disappears immediately. Creatures with true sight can see through the illusion to the terrain's true form, however, all other elements of the illusion remain, so while the creature is aware of the illusion's presence, the creature can still physically interact with the illusion. And finally, this spell can only normally be learned by bards, druids, and wizards. When I first read this, my only reaction was, "What? What the fuck?" Now, in case you don't truly grasp the severity of what we just read, let me put it in perspective for you. You have the ability to make an illusion that's so potent it can alter the terrain, any terrain, into any other type of terrain, so long as it wouldn't conceal another creature or disguise them. And it extends for a square mile. So you, with your 13th level wizard-looking ass, could walk over to the nearest town, climb up to a high spot, look down, wave your arms around and chant for 10 minutes, and turn the entire thing into a lava field, or turn it into a giant ice rink, or just set it on fire the normal way. You can turn a normal forest into a glacier, a desert into a pond. There are literally limitless options. And this illusion is so potent that you can hear, feel, smell it. Basically, it might as well just be real. But can you hurt someone with these illusions? That's not specifically stated in the spell, and it is just an illusion. Well, the answer to that question is yes. It was confirmed by Jeremy Crawford, the lead rules designer for 5th edition, that you can in fact kill someone with illusory terrain. He also specified that you could make someone fall off an illusory cliff, so you can make a cliff where there was none before and have someone literally phase through the ground and fall all the way down and die. Now, again, a lot of this is up to interpretation. You could argue that since the terrain has to be somewhat similar to what it was before, that you couldn't just make like a huge cliff out of nowhere, but general shape is pretty vague, so it's really up to the dungeon master. Now, at this point, the illusion is getting so real that this might as well just be a transmutation spell, in my opinion. You're converting one form of terrain into another. You can touch, feel, smell it. It basically might as well just be real. The reason I love this spell so much is because it's so open-ended. You can do almost anything with it. It has so much utility. But that being said, it does raise like a million unanswerable questions just by reading it. Like, what counts as terrain? Could you make a minefield? Could you make a mechanist gear? Could you just make everything into Nickelodeon slime? And it can add buildings, so you could theoretically just create a mile-wide town, sleep for a bit, get your spell slot back, and just make another one. You could just make a huge town for 10 days. And since you can make illusory cliffs, that also implies that you can remove things from the original terrain, and people will still feel it like it's real. So could you just delete a building and have everyone fall out of it? Also, something funny I will mention, while creatures with true sight can see through it, they still feel it like it's real. So that sounds more like a curse than anything. Like, you look forward, you don't see anything, you walk, suddenly there's a wall there you didn't see because it's an illusion. I don't know the ins and outs of how true sight works. I assume you can turn it off and on, but if you can't, you're just gonna be stuck, like, fumbling around, hitting walls that you can't see. Another thing that confuses me about the spell is that it can't conceal creatures. So if there's a creature that you don't know about, and you cast a spell, you have an illusion in mind, does the spell fail? Or does, like, the area where that creature would be concealed not get affected by the illusion? And it says it doesn't conceal or add creatures, but does that mean only when the spell's cast or while the spell's always active? So if you, like, walked, like, behind a wall, would the wall disappear? Or would the wall just make itself invisible so you could see the creature behind it, but still be like, you can feel it and you can smell it, etc.? And what if the creature's already concealed? Like, what if they have invisibility or they're just hiding? Can you unconceal them? Or would the invisible creature still not be able to be, like, behind walls and stuff, because that would conceal them further? And when you think about it, this whole concealment thing might extend to other feelings as well, because it doesn't say conceal from sight, it just says conceal. So, for instance, if the illusion smelled too potent, would it, like, make itself smell less potent so you could smell another creature? Or would it, like, make itself quieter if there was, like, a loud waterfall that would conceal someone's sound? I think this is part of the spell that could use a lot further explanation, like maybe another paragraph or something talking about, like, the rules on concealment or how that would work, because as it stands, it's very vague and it raises so many questions. If I were running a game and someone cast this spell, I would say it can conceal things, but only after the spell is cast. So you can make a building, but it can't be on top of you. You have to actually physically go in the building afterwards. And if a creature would be concealed that they don't know about, I would say the terrain would just be subtly shifted so that creature wouldn't be concealed, depending on what the person wanted the terrain to be. Like, if they made a bunch of rocks, the creature would just not be concealed by the rocks. They would form around it. But restrictions aside, this spell is still insanely good. But believe it or not, we're not done yet, because it gets even better. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce the Illusionist Wizard. For you see, the Illusionist subclass for this wizard gives them a very powerful ability if you combine it with this spell. Malleable Illusions. Starting at 6th level, when you cast an illusion spell that has a duration of 1 minute or longer, you can use your action to change the nature of that illusion, using the spell's normal parameters for the illusion, provided that you can see the illusion. Mirage Arcane is an illusion spell, and it does last longer than 1 minute, so it counts. So long as it remains within the range of the illusion, you essentially become a god of the terrain. With a single action, you can alter pretty much everything around you to however you desire. Make rivers, make lava, make ice, whatever you want. This also does help get around some of the problems with the spell. For instance, it does require line of sight, so if you can't see something, you can't change it with this illusion spell. However, with malleable illusions, you can just walk to wherever you didn't see and then meld the illusion around it. It also does raise the question, could you change the location of the illusion by, like, removing some part of it and then moving it to the other side? So if you made, like, I don't know, a 5-foot cube, you took off 2 foot from the back, could you extend it 2 feet forward? That idea is really funny to me. Like, imagine a D&D party is walking through some dangerous terrain, and the illusionist wizard is just inching their Mirage Arcane forward like a caterpillar, changing it to, like, a nice open road. Or you could create an illusory bridge that can technically be stepped on because it's there, and when you get to the other side, just delete it. Now, some people may run this spell in a way to where it's just an illusion. So, for instance, if you made like a bridge or a building, you couldn't actually walk on it because it's not really there. However, other people might run it in a way where you really can just make buildings and hide in them. And the spell does imply that you can carry objects that were in the terrain, as you can move them out and they'll disappear. If they were not there, you couldn't pick them up to move them out in the first place, so why would they mention that? Again, this strikes me as a spell that you might need to talk to your DM about before you use it, because there's a lot of weird cases when it comes to it. But yeah, that's basically all I had to say about Mirage Arcane. A very, very powerful spell and a very interesting one, and one of my new personal favorites. I think one of the best ways to use this spell is against an approaching army, because as they approach whatever they're trying to attack, you can suddenly make a 1-mile wide lava field right in front of them, and they all fall and burn. This is why you don't mess with wizards, man. The fact that they even survived long enough to get 7th level spells is evidence that you shouldn't be beefing with them. Anyway, I'm gonna go and cast Mirage Arcane and make an entire town and start living in it for the rest of my life. Goodbye.